And we are live Saturday before the Super Bowl, before the last game of the year. Is there a must-have Super Bowl food, snack, beverage for you guys? Like when you come and think of it, like you gotta have this at every Super Bowl party. I guess besides like alcoholic beverages, if you're into that. Anything you think of?
Yeah, just drink your calories. It's fine.
I think wings have become the staple food here.
Yeah. I would say, I thought garlic bread would have said garlic bread.
Except the roll. Ribs and beer. Yeah.
Ribs is good.
Ribs, but you need some Bob's big boy blue cheese with them for sure.
Yeah, if you're into that. Some kind of dip.
I never understood the thing with wings eaten with ranch or blue cheese. You know, to me that ruins the wing. But
what about pizza with ranch?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. So, but a lot more people do it, and so I'm an old man. So,
I think it's more of a West Coast thing than like a East Coast. You know, there's kind of the elitist.
Yeah, whoever invented ranch dressing certainly made a lot of money. We didn't grow up with it, that's for sure.
Hidden Valley. I don't know.
When do you think it was invented? If you had to guess when it was invented, I just looked it up. When
80s. That's
Brian,
when I
would you guess?
First started remembering 80s.
1960.
Yeah, it says early 50s, but maybe it didn't start. It says Anchorage, Alaska is where the guy was when he invented it, potentially. So maybe that's why it took a while to get there. Bitchin' sauce is great for a store-bought dip.
Yeah, that's
What's up?
They got that. They got that at Costco. Queso dip and chips is really good.
Chips are horrible. I kind of lean towards. I kind of lean towards like chips and dip might be my number one. Like if I have that and like beverages, I'd probably be okay without anything else. Like I don't know. Obviously, you want like a meal of some sort, a burger, or ribs, or whatever. But I think I'd survive with just chips and dip.
Ramon Flores salsa that he makes every year.
Yeah. Salsa, queso, whatever. But we're here with a team review for Rip Lips. I think I'm saying that right. Or RIP Lips. I don't know. I guess both work. So Rip Lips here. We are doing a team review for him. Oh, yeah. I forget. He works for Frito-Lay as well. So
oh, shit.
Saying chips are horrible. We might get him fired or something. I don't know. Yeah. But anyways, we are here and down with funds here. He says, I'm a massive chips and dip guy, but you got to have some. Yeah, I get it. If you had to choose one, though, I think I would just go with chips and dip.
What's that? Wait, go back to that.
Yeah, it's pizza.
Yeah, pizza. Wings or pizza. Come on, man. Get with it.
What do you mean, come on, man? Shit.
Isn't it something like Domino's or Pizza Hut? I don't know if this is true. I heard this float around. They make like 10% of their yearly sales on. I can't imagine it's that much on Super Bowl Sunday. That's kind of a lot, but I'm sure
a number of years ago, I went to your sister's house for when she lived in an apartment for Super Bowl, and she ordered wings. She had to order them like 3 or 4 days in advance from Wingstop.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't have gotten them, you know? So it's like the amount of wings that are consumed is ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of dead chickens to cook up right now too. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. Bird flu. We're not getting eggs, but we're getting. We should have chicken wings. Bird flu wings.
Sure. But buffalo wings are from buffalo meat, by the way. We're here with Rip Lips' team reviewing his team. We actually did a team from this league before. And Yeah, we'll start off like we always do, looking at the wins above replacement for this league. And it's a 10 team. 10 team start 10 Superflex, PPR, also a half point tight end premium. They just finished their first season. So we see here, when you don't have, you kind of have a standard scoring type of stuff, that, there's no one position that's, dominant over the other ones. And so we see that here with the war tool, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, they're all kind of right there. Obviously the top tier quarterbacks are going to be the most valuable, but this is a hammer S tier player type of league. This is the equivalent to a 12 team. It is a different league than the one we did before. Ripley's. Did I get that wrong? But this should be a 12 team. I'm just gonna make sure. Yeah. This is essentially what a 12 team start 8-ish, just a little bit over start 8. So obviously it's a little bit shallow for the type of players you want to start. Sorry, I got a little distracted, but so I guess my question to you guys, and we'll kind of show we'll show the team here that we are looking at here, and I guess my question is, where are those S tier players? And let me actually go back to this here. So when I'm talking about the S tier players, like let me just like highlight wide receivers here, right? So obviously you have Jamar Chase, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and stuff like that. And you see the drop off and kind of the line get a little bit flat, right? We see the line get a little bit flat here. The difference between Chase and the wide receiver 9 is like like a full point or something like that difference in wins above replacement. And then you look at wide receiver 8 to wide receiver 32, there's only a half a point difference. So we really want those top tier, like top 5 guys, not even, wide receiver ones, low end wide receiver ones aren't necessarily considered those S tier type of players. Obviously they're necessary, but they're not, they're not like, you kind of need a couple of those S tier guys. So where do we see the S tier players here? To me, there's 2. There's Puka, and then I'm throwing in Ashton Genty in there at the 101. Like those are like the 2 that I would kind of bank on right now. Yeah. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think there's a couple more that you would throw in there, or obviously there's some guys that
go
could
back
get there, but
can I go back to your war and try to understand why it's a tight end premium league?
Yep.
But it looks like tight ends are not. I don't know.
Yeah. So this is what I always kind of mention when it comes to tight end premium leagues, is that if you're only getting half a point more, if everyone's getting 1 point and they're getting 1.5, it's actually not really that much of a difference, right? And when we talk about that much of a difference, we're talking about like, do these lower end tight ends start to become into the flex conversation? So like, you're not really flexing tight ends in this league, even though it is a half point tight end premium, unless you have like Bowers and McBride, which I think one team actually does, or something like that. So it needs to be at least double and maybe even more, like 2 to 2.25 or more. So that's why you don't really see, outside the top tier guys, the tight ends really making that much a difference, which is important to when talking about his team. So, but yeah, the hammer pieces, like to me, it's Puka and Genty. I think there's a couple other guys that could get there, maybe a Drake May, maybe a Rashee Rice. But Brian, do you kind of agree with that? Do you think there's someone I'm missing?
I mean, when you're talking about top 5 guys, like probably not really, but I mean, there's not a lot of those guys in general. So
Yeah.
if you expand it a little bit, like McConkey could be there in PPR,
Mhm.
So as a low end number one guy, but I know that's kind of not really what you were saying. But I mean, I think he's gonna get better this coming year. And yeah, like I think he could sneak into there with a little more going on in the Chargers offense in general.
Yeah. I kind of see it as like Puka, Jane T. I think Drake May has a good chance to be a potential difference maker at the quarterback position. I think I'd probably give Rashee Rice maybe more of a chance to be that over a Lad McConkey, potentially, assuming he's healthy to start the year. And that's kind of it. Maybe the 102 can turn into something there, like a Tet McMillan or Marion Hampton or something. But I think, to me, the number one goal here, I know it says trust the process here. I don't really agree with that because he has a pretty good starting lineup. You have Herbert and May. You have Puka, McConkey, Rice, Ayuk, Tucker Kraft, Kincaid, one of those guys, or maybe both. Obviously the running backs we need to work on, but you're adding Genty to that running back room, then you could probably survive with what you have there in Charbonnet, Etienne, Bigsby, maybe Jalen Wright or Lloyd doing something. So
yeah, but Charbonnet and Etienne are just kind of they're not number ones.
Yeah, I mean the Jacksonville situation is kind of, we don't really know how Liam Cohen's going to view that room, so that could definitely change. I give the lean to Etienne just because he catches the ball, but yeah, that room's up in the air. So is Seattle a little bit as well. Like, do they want to roll with it? But again, to me, what you need in this league is 3 or 4 kind of those S tier players, those hammers, right? And we have probably 2. Maybe we have a third when you throw in all these other guys, May, Rice, McConkey, even Ayuk potentially. Out of those 4 guys, maybe a third one steps up. So I think the goal here is to find that next S tier guy. Yeah. So, who are those? Those are obviously the quarterbacks, Lamar, Jaden Daniels, who I think is on one team here. Allen and Hurts, who Flexual Healing has. You have Jefferson, Chase, probably all the way down to wide receiver 7 or so, I would say. Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, Lamb, BTJ, Puka, Amon-Ra, Nico, probably. And then it gets a little bit tougher to see, but it's possible for the other guys like London and Marvin Harrison. Obviously Gibbs, Bijan, Achane, guys like that. So we're looking to add some of those guys. Is there anyone in particular of those that you think could be reasonable to get? I don't know if you've seen any, Brian, there that you're looking at that you think might be obtainable. We have this guy here who has a lot of the top receivers. His name's Brian. Neighbors, yeah. Lamb, BTJ, Jason.
Yeah, I was looking at that guy's team because he's got a very strong team that's young. And I also noticed that he's traded a lot of his picks for next year and this year. So he's kind of all in from what it looks like.
Yeah.
The only really thing that I can see going with him is maybe trading him, like Tucker Kraft for his second for next year, something like that. Sorry, my voice is like a little jacked up. But I don't know. I think he's going to be kind of a hard guy to get pieces from unless he's looking to diversify a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm willing. If you need to go get water or something, you can.
I had some. I've got like a cough drop in my mouth too.
I'm willing to. Yeah, I kind of see like BTJ as is he willing to move off of him if we kind of give him a couple of guys like an Ayuk and something else to potentially get us? Because again, like when we go back and actually look at it, a low end wide receiver 1 versus like wide receiver 24, there's not a huge difference in this league in terms of what it's bringing to your team. You need to have those top tier guys, like you just do. You need 3 or 4 of them. Now you also need to supplement them with guys like Rice or Ayuk, and those low end wide receiver ones or RB1s or RB2s even. But without at least one more here, I think this team can compete. I do think it can compete. I think that's important. I think it can compete this year, especially with 4 picks in the top 11 because it's a 10-team league and 5 in the top 20. So I'm interested in maybe throwing like an Ayuk plus something and trying to get like maybe the 108 and trying to get one of those guys that we're throwing. Like, can we get that done? I don't know. People are a little bit lower on Ayuk in general. I don't know. How are you feeling about Ayuk there, Dad? Like, do you think he's going to kind of return to what he was in 2023, or?
Well, let's think of the 49er situation. There's rumors that Debo may not be around, so it could be an Ayuk show, with Ricky Pearsall, I guess, and stuff like that. So I think it's a great trade asset, trade chip to try and get somebody, to try and get an upper tier. You were talking about Brian Thomas, right? Trying to Ayuk in a draft pick to.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking?
No, I was. I just don't know if it's going to get done. Like, I think people are really in love with Brian Thomas. I mean, can you do something like that for like a Achane? If you believe in him as being one of those guys, which he kind of was this year, he was the RB6 in WAR this last year. So maybe he's in there. I don't want to go for like a Henry or something like that, at least not now. Maybe more in season than anything. Who has Gibbs? Let's see here. Who has Jahmyr Gibbs? It's tough because it's the first year and they just finished their first year. So you have and you see it from the bar graph here. You have a lot of guys who are like, there's not a big separation between the first place team and the 9th place team or the 10th place team. Like, so everyone, I feel like in Rip Lips, you can kind of tell me this and confirm. Like, I feel like everyone's going to feel like they can compete this year. So that's a little bit tough.
Wow.
Gibbs, Barkley,
this guy,
Jacobs.
Did he win the league?
He got 2nd place, looks like. Yeah. Yeah, Gibbs, Barkley, Jacobs. Yeah, would he be willing to potentially – because he doesn't have great receivers. And so, like, to me, it has to be Gibbs or Barkley that I would get. I like Jacobs. He's – I don't mind it either, but I feel like Ayuk to Jacobs, Ayuk plus something to Jacobs is not the move to make. 6 teams make the playoffs as well. So, yeah, you get 60% of the league also making the playoffs. So that's important to highlight. Like, a lot of people are going to want to be in it and compete. So, yeah, can we do something for this guy here? Like, what would you trade Ayuk? Would you add something to get Barkley, or do you think he should part ways, like straight up for him because of the age stuff and positional?
Yeah, now we're talking, the top 2 running backs in fantasy, top 2 out of the 3.
Yeah,
we're going to try and pry him out of there. So, I mean, if I got Gibbs and Barkley, and you offer me Ayuk and something else, and I see you got the 101, I'd say, yeah, I want the 101.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I don't think I would either if I have the 101, but I'm just.
I mean, the 101's Genty. You gotta remember that. The 101's Ashton Genty, who's going to come in as at worst RB4, 5. So, oops.
I'm wondering, like, you might have to package that 102 with a high-end player and overpay for one of those guys if you want to try and move up there. Like I'm even thinking what's that?
No, go ahead.
I'm even thinking Herbert in the 102, and you probably got to throw something else in and to try and get Josh Allen or something like that, but he's kind of untouchable. But I mean, you throw enough pieces at somebody and then maybe you can get that done.
Yeah. What about like the 108 Ayuk and one of his tight ends? That's probably not enough to get Gibbs, huh? Not what he did, not how he ended, at least. What about Ayuk in the 102? Would you trade that for Gibbs?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I would too.
Yeah, it's a little tough. So I think you can kind of go two ways with this team. It does say your starter rank is 10th, which I didn't analyze everyone's team super carefully to think about their starting lineup, but I think with as much draft capital as you have, you can easily fill some of those holes and give it a shot. And I wouldn't be too worried about drafting running backs if you think you need to build it for another year, because they're all still going to be young next year. So
yeah,
I think that's fine. But obviously that's the biggest hole is the running backs. So
yeah.
So I think the move is basically either try and package some of your firsts with some of your players to try and tier up, or just draft them. And if you don't make it this year, you still have a nice young base with your quarterbacks and your receivers.
Yeah. To me, the goal, because I do think this team could make the playoffs. Obviously, with 6 teams making it, especially when you're, if you stick and pick here, and the 101 and 102 could be 2 running backs. So you add Genty and Travion Henderson, or Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton. Then your running back room looks amazing. So I'm not too worried about the running backs really, because I am adding Ashton Genty here. I guess to me, this team could make the playoffs, and once you make the playoffs, anything can happen. To me, the goal is though to get that one last S tier player between now and middle of next season. You don't have to do it right now. It's adding it somewhere along the way. It might be easier in the middle of the season if a guy, a team gets kind of knocked out of the playoffs or has a bad start and they want to rebuild or something. Seems like it's going to be hard to potentially get one of those guys if 6 teams make the playoffs and everyone has a pretty good team. Which is why I think they're saying the starter rank is 10, but what does that really mean? That's probably not a huge difference between 10 and 1, right? So I think, that's kind of the ultimate goal right now is, and again, it can be done in October of 2025.
I wonder if
somehow getting that player.
I wonder if getting AJ Brown from Burrow D's Nuts, that's a funny name, is
AJ
realistic.
Why is that not? Do I need that?
I don't know what you'd have to give up to get him. I mean, it really depends on how the league feels. Yeah, Rip Lips. I would do that trade. Bijan in the 102, or Bijan for the 102 and Ayuk.
Yeah,
obviously Bijan's another great target. You might have to look at slightly older players or be willing to pay for those young guys for sure. You're gonna have to overpay, but that's okay.
Yeah. I was going to ask Dad. Dad, what do you think of that trade? Would you trade the 102 and Brandon Ayuk to get Bijan?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, me too.
And then if you draft 101 Genty,
mm-hmm.
look, I mean, you got to really, and plus what you got, your running back class should be pretty good.
And his S tier players, I mean, assuming Genty is that guy, Bijan, Puka, now you've solidified a third. You know, you got three.
Rice.
You probably have something with McConkey, Rice, Drake May as one of those guys as well. There's a good chance one of those guys kind of steps up into there.
That would be that'd be outstanding.
Yeah, he's heavy at running back. Let's see, Bijan here. By the way, just a quick ad break. If you are enjoying the content, I know most people in here are already subscribed. There's different ways to support us. The easiest, cheapest, fastest way is literally hit like on the video, on this live stream, on any video you watch. Hit the like button, drop a comment if it's a pre-recorded video, and then subscribe. That's the easiest way. There's other ways as well. There's super chat options. If you guys have any Dynasty questions that you're watching, I know we're going over Rip Lip's team, but we will answer some questions afterwards, so you can start leaving those in. There's a super chat option there. I think it's like $sign under the chat box if you want to like get your question answered right away. You can become a member of the channel. That's somewhere below the chat box as well, I think. So different ways to support us, but easiest is to, again, just like and subscribe and then join our Discord, which is free, leaving it in the chat here. So he said this owner has a lot of running backs. He says Bijan, Kyron, McCaffrey, Pacheco. Yeah, he definitely does. He has the 104, so he can easily add one there. He definitely needs a wide receiver, some wide receiver help. So yeah, if you can get Bijan, honestly, if you can get Kyron as well, like I would trade the 102 for Kyron. I think he's a little bit slightly underrated. Like why Kyron's done more than like Breece Hall, but like Breece Hall is considered more valuable, That doesn't completely make sense to me.
I think you're still waiting for Breece Hall to have that huge season or something, and whether that's going to happen.
I get it.
Huh?
And Kyron was like a late round pick and had a bad rookie year, did nothing his rookie year. And I just I agree with you. I think Breece Hall could have that season, but like, I don't know if Kyron should be below it, or we should maybe look at them in the same light, right? Like Kyron's done it. He was the RB2 in 2023 in points per game. And then he was like the RB6 this year or something. He scores a lot of touchdowns. He's on a really good offense. Like, I guess maybe people are concerned about the long-term future of him. Maybe have one more year of Kyron on the Rams. But if I would do personally the 102 straight up for Kyron. I don't know if you guys feel the same there.
I don't mind trading draft capital for established players. Now, like you said, the only possible negative thing to that is he might only be that established player for a couple more years.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, seriously, how far in the future do you really need to look? I mean, we're thinking about next
2-3
year.
years.
Huh?
For running backs, it's to me, it's year to year, except for
Gibbs
and Bijan and then Dynasty in general is 2 to 3 years. So what would you rather do, Brian? Would you rather do Ayuk in the 102 for Bijan or just the 102 for Kyron?
No, I think I'd rather have Bijan, just because
but also giving up Ayuk.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we say that, but it's like Ayuk got a contract. He's on the 49ers. I think it's just easy to forget what Ayuk was, in 2023. He was the wide receiver 14 in points per game, total points, and wide receiver 15 in points per game, and then he had a slow start, missed training camp, and then tore his ACL. So it's just funny to say it's fine. We can lose Ayuk. It's this guy was considered a top 10 dynasty asset once he got his contract or top 10 wide receiver asset once he got his contract. So I get it.
Yeah.
Who gives you more points? Bijan or Ayuk and Kyron?
Well, I mean, it depends on who you're replacing your other player with too. It's Bijan plus somebody, right? whoever that's going to be.
What
Just
do you
because
mean? Sorry.
just because it's two
Oh.
roster spots, So
Yeah, let's just say it's a replacement level player.
yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty close. Like, Kyron and Bijan probably aren't going to be like that far apart, but dynasty wise, like their value is so different, obviously, because we know what Bijan's future is, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking, like, I just feel like Kyron's a little disrespected just because of the 5th round pick and did nothing his rookie year. Like, the dude is awesome. He scored all these touchdowns the last 2 years. Like, you look at his box, like his Fantasy Pros box score, like he's so consistent. Like 2023, he had two games under 14 points in PPR. 2 games under 14 points in half PPR. That's it. And then this year, I'm looking at it. He had 3 games under 15 points, really, in half PPR or 14. So like he's just so damn consistent. But
and McVay uses them. It's like we don't have this big wonder game if we know Kyrie Williams is going to get the ball or not. Like we occasionally do in Atlanta. We didn't have that problem this year, and some others. And it's like, holy shit, is he going to get? They finally going to give him the ball, and we don't have that problem with him.
Yeah, and this is a good question from Rip Lips about S tier players. So I'm going to share the keep trade cut here real quick and just kind of go over what I consider S tier. You guys can tell me if you would add anyone, but for the quarterbacks, it's Allen, Daniels, Lamar, Hurts. Maybe if you want to throw Burrow in there, fine. That's it really. Maybe Drake May sneaks in there and stuff like that, but that's it. Running backs to me, it's Gibbs, Bijan, Saquon, Achane, Kyron, and then like I think Brees has the potential. I think Jonathan Taylor has the potential. Bucky Irving, do we consider him an S tier guy already? I mean, he's ranked that way.
I don't see why not. Problem is Rashad White.
Yeah, you got a new offense coming in, so
yeah.
I think did they promote from within?
They did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they did.
So that's it to me. I mean, again, guys, I'm not saying guys like James Cook and Jacobs aren't good. To me, like if you average them out over the next 2-3 seasons, they're probably like RB8, RB9, which is great. But again, like you need to supplement those guys with the guys that are like literally Gibbs won you championships if you had him. Like he was that good, Chase did the same. Chase, Jefferson, Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb, Brian Thomas, Puka, Amon-Ra, probably Nico, and there's other guys that could sneak in there for sure. Drake London, Marvin Harrison, AJ Brown even. I don't consider Garrett Wilson there just because the quarterback situation is up in the air, like for next year. So that is, could he be beyond that?
Catches 100 passes and we think he's a bust or something. I don't know.
It's because, he's just like producing at a wide receiver 2 level, I don't think he's a bust. It's just, we know what he's capable of, but he's going to be limited by his quarterback.
He's disappointing. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And that's probably Bowers, McBride, and then probably Kittle for the tight ends. So he mentioned try and buy one of Shake and Bake's wide receivers. Should we try and buy one of Shake and Bake's wide receivers? Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Addison, Waddle. So obviously Jefferson and Amon-Ra already in there. I don't think Addison will ever reach there unless Jefferson goes down. Waddle's an interesting one. I think he's kind of a buy low. We've talked about him. The odds that he becomes one of those guys a little bit lower, but definitely possible. Would you buy? I mean, obviously we're buying Jefferson and Amon-Ra. What are we throwing to get throwing at him to get that. Like, would you do Rashi Rice, Ayuk, and the 201 to get one of those guys?
Yeah, but I don't think that's going to get it done.
I don't know, man. Like, I think people see like, oh, I'm getting Rice, Ayuk. If there's a little bit more optimism around those guys and a pick, like maybe. But that's kind of what you have to do to get those guys, the 102.
Yeah. I was going to say just offer your 108 straight up for Waddle.
Yeah.
I'd be good with that.
Yeah. I don't know if that gives him that hammer, but yeah, I would do that.
Well, so I think we need to think about it a little differently. Just in terms of like you can overpay for some of these like guys that are already there, but like you said, like part of the way that you kind of like win these trades long term is you gotta look at the guys outside of there that can get in there,
Mm-hmm.
So obviously super hard to predict, but it's like I still like going after AJ Brown in a lot of leagues, like coming off of a slightly down year. I don't know if they're going to be quite as run heavy next year. I mean, obviously it worked for them this year, but I mean, Saquon got a lot of touches, they're probably going to have to throw a little more this coming year. Like, I don't know if they're just going to be able to run Saquon into the ground kind of a thing. So
I like Odunze as like a guy that could enter that territory, and so that was going to be like the next thing I wanted to talk about was tier downs. Now, tier downs, there's a couple reasons why you tier down. If you play in deeper leagues, usually getting multiple players for one player is the way to go. Shallow leagues, why do you do it? Well, you add assets to your team to potentially either get someone who's better, plus you're getting something, or you're getting more ammo to go out and get a Chase, a Jefferson, an Amon-Ra, a Gibbs. So to me, like, and it sounds like I hate the Chargers, which I don't. They're, I guess my team is Herbert and McConkey are two tier down candidates. Herbert is like, QB 7 or something according to Keep Trade Cut. Like, and like, could he have like a difference making? And Baker Mayfield had like a difference making season, right? Like any of these guys can. It's just more like, what are we banking on, and what are we looking at over a 3-year average, right? And so like Herbert could sneak in there, but to me, like Herbert is a prime tier down candidate to like tier down to him and or from him to get picks and another quarterback. Like, make sure you're kind of getting a quarterback in return. Lad is another one. Like, I would easily do like Lad to a Dunze plus something, because like a Dunze was ahead of Lad heading into the season. It's not going to take much for a Dunze to get above Lad McConkey, in my opinion. And so a Dunze is definitely one of those guys who, to me, he could easily jump into that top 10, top 8 category if he has a big year. I don't know if there's if you guys agree with that. Dad, what do you think about Odunze with your boy Ben Johnson?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably. I think if I have to lean one way or another, I'd probably lean towards that. I mean, Odunze, it all depends on the quarterback, so. But
sure.
I know I'm not speaking
like,
a little.
Let me ask you this: how shocked would you be if Odunze was better than Lad McConkey next year?
Not at all. I think
kind of
you've
point,
seen.
Right?
I'm not sure you're going to see another level of Lad McConkey.
I kind of agree, and I think they're going to bring in a weapon too. Which
yeah.
I don't think it's really going to affect Lad. I think you're just going to consistently get what he did last year.
I think so too. I think what you've seen out of him and I'll just say like 80 passes and 80 catches and 6 to 8 touchdowns. That's what I think. We're going to get this 110 with 12 touchdowns, or I don't think he's that type of guy.
Yeah, they would have to throw the ball more.
Yeah, which they started to. So he's never going to get to the. I know it's like a super high bar, but he's never going to get to Keenan Allen status.
In his heyday with the Chargers.
What's that?
In his heyday with the Chargers, you're saying? In Allen's heyday with the Chargers?
Yeah, I know the offense is completely different. I'm just kind of throwing him out there, like as kind of like that heavily targeted guy.
I don't think so. And it won't be that far off. We're not. We're talking really. I don't want to say small numbers, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. And Mike, I think you just said, the offense is different too.
Sure. I think that's the big thing. Like, I could see him getting close. Like Keenan Allen's best reception year was 108. Like I could see McConkey getting 90. Consistently 95. And his best yardage year was almost 1,400 yards. But yeah, I generally agree. I think we're kind of seeing like McConkey at the peak. I think he's going to be a very good player. He could be top 15 in any given year. But again, like the simple question of would you be shocked if Odunze had a better year? No. That to me is saying, well, then I'm going to go McConkey to Odunze, get something else. If Odunze has a better year than McConkey, Odunze is going to be ranked higher than McConkey next year, pretty easily. So, and yeah, I would definitely take Odunze over the 108. That's pretty easy for me. So I know he not a great year for fantasy. It's funny because his year like probably wasn't as bad as maybe you thought for Odunze. Like he had over 700 yards and 50 catches, just no touchdowns really. But
yeah, I think he's a good trade target for sure. And the 108 is probably where he got drafted last year.
In a deeper draft.
What's that?
In a deeper draft, most likely.
Yeah, but so I'm fine paying that. Like. Yeah. I don't know. It's not a discount or anything like that, but I think it's totally legit in a class, like especially if you're trying to add that wide receiver, like in a class where you don't have them as many of them as you did last year.
Yeah. By the way, Brad, definitely not our expertise salary cap leagues. I'd be interested though if you're in our Discord, like message me, and I'd be interested in like talking to you about it and doing some more research on it to help you for sure. Like I'd be willing to take that on. So, but it's definitely not our expertise. So like, I want you just kind of a little bit of a warning there. But yeah, I definitely take Odunze over the 108. Yeah, that's really the only down tier guys I can probably, or tier down guys, whatever you want to call it, that I would probably say, just because like I think Rice and Ayuk are probably like they're kind of right at their floor in my opinion. Puka is a possibility, but now you're leaving the hammer S tier guys, right? Like, and I don't really want to do that unless you really believe like someone who's ranked like Marvin Harrison or JSN or something is like can be a hammer piece, an S tier guy, then you could possibly do it. I'd probably just be holding Puka. And then Herbert to me is a guy that like I don't know if he's just gonna be what he is. Like, could he have a top 7 season? But if probably like or be QB5 next year, sure. But like you average it out over the next 3 years, he's probably like QB 8 or 9, which is fine. But there's probably a couple other guys that it might be in there too, like a Baker, like a Goff maybe, or a Stroud and Knicks and guys like that.
AJ Brown.
For who?
Nah, I don't know. 108
Oh.
plus maybe your 201.
For AJ Brown, yeah.
Yeah, if you can do that, do it. And if
Yeah.
they ask for another pick, like another lower pick than that, do that also.
If anyone values these tight ends, because it is a tight end premium and people just see tight end premium and they overvalue tight ends, and we just talked about how giving that half point, only getting 0.5 points per reception more is not really making that much of a difference. If people overvalue these tight ends, I am absolutely selling both these guys off because they just fall into that giant bucket of guys, in my opinion. I would assume, I don't know, does Kraft or Kincaid have more buzz? It's kind of hard to say for sure. I know Kraft was better, but
I'd rather have Kincaid just because of the offense and the less crowded receiving room.
We say that, but like Kincaid was worse this year.
I know.
How do you go?
Get it.
How are you worse this year? Like you're on the offense. You had all the opportunity to play and be the guy, and you were worse than you were your rookie year. That concerns me. But maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on those guys. But yeah, if any of those guys are like overvalued, I am 100% selling both of them if I can. Because again, we go back to that war tool and we just look at Tucker Kraft, who was tight end 7 or something in like total points, something like that. I think he was equivalent in value according to WAR to Khalil Shakir in the wide receiver tier. He was equivalent in value to Kareem Hunt in the running back level. So like, even though it is tight end, like you need to be a top 3 to 5 guy. You just do. So,
yeah, and there's so tight end teams in general,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, he likes AJ Brown.
Hit them up.
I think that's a good idea, by the way.
What, trading the tight ends? Is that what you're saying?
AJ Brown, yeah.
Oh, AJ Brown. Okay.
Yeah.
There's definitely tight end needy teams.
Yeah, AJ Brown's just definitely one of those guys that I keep thinking about, like in terms of like he can easily be a top 5 guy. We've seen it. He's coming off a down year. He's a little older, but he's nowhere near old. He's like 28 or something. So he's got multiple years left. People might want to move off of him, and if you start throwing in, multiple, top 12 picks, i.e. your 201 and your 108, that definitely perks people's ears up.
Yep. Absolutely. And again, we're okay with what seems like an overpay here. Do you try and sell the 101? What could you get for that? Yeah, that's the tough thing, because it's like we're assuming, again, if this is a deeper league where you're starting more guys, I'm open to it. But again, we need those S tier guys, and Genty is going to be viewed as one at the very least for the next year. Like he's going to be, he'll follow. Like Breece Hall is still RB5. Right? Like that just tells you all you need to know about how we view some of these guys with this incredible potential. So I'd need a guaranteed hammer piece.
Well, okay. So let's think about that. Like, well, I mean, you're not getting any of those, like those top like 5 receivers straight up for the 101. What?
Probably not.
What are you trading if you package the 101 and the 102 together? Like, who were you trading that for? Justin Jefferson?
Jefferson, Chase, Neighbors, Lamb.
So, PTJ. I mean, that's kind of that's another thing to consider, where you're getting guaranteed something for, obviously like some highly valuable things, but
yeah, you want somebody in that case, you want a no shit player,
Yeah,
who's going to
and
give
I don't
you
even think
something.
I'm not doing that for Brian Thomas. Like, no offense to him or anything, but everyone else that you just mentioned, I'd do it.
It's interesting, like with
Maybe it's
Brian
more
Thomas.
related to the Jacksonville Jaguars than the player, but anyway.
Yeah,
go ahead.
no, I don't have any problem with him, but just all the other guys, I'm a little higher on. That's all.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like, but the big thing with BTJ is like what you see on the field. I don't know how many people are watching Jacksonville, but what you see translates to like what you in the box score to what you see on the field. Like the dude is like legitimately special. So I would easily do it for him. Just because like the guy is legit. And if Liam Cohen can just bring some kind of stability to that offense, then we're looking at a massive year. But maybe Lawrence is just a bust. Who knows? But yeah, the 101, like obviously the top tier guys. Are we doing it for Nico Collins, for Drake London? I don't think I am.
I might lean to Nico a little more than Drake London, I guess. So I don't know. That's just a personal opinion.
Yeah, I would. I don't think you have to pay that. I'd be much more comfortable doing like the 102 and the 108 for Nico.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd do straight up the 101, but and then obviously the running backs like Gibbs, Bijan, Achan, probably not. I don't know. Achan's an interesting one. Yeah, but I'm generally I'm keeping the like I need an overpay. Like I need a guaranteed, no questions asked. Like and that even with Achan, there's some questions like about can he consistently be this guy? So there are some players that I want to highlight, and then we'll kind of finish this up. And Rip Lips, you can tell us if you have any questions and stuff. Obviously, you can message us in the Discord. But there are some players that are undervalued, in my opinion, that I think could be maybe not those S tier players, but can still be really good for you. Terry McLaurin, Waddle, Metcalf, I think can even sneak into like a wide receiver 1 territory if he gets on the right team. DJ Moore is another one, although he is moving up. So because of the Ben Johnson hire, DJ Moore is another one that I think like all these guys I think could be wide receiver 1s, like low end wide receiver 1s next year. Obviously the veteran running backs, Tyreek, yes, Tyreek is a good call. He could be a difference maker. Like he's definitely a guy. Like he could be one of those hammer pieces next year. And this guy could use some wide receiver depth. That's tricky though. What are we trading for Tyreek?
I think he's worth the 108, but I don't think you have to pay that. I don't know. It's tough because you're not necessarily like a contender in the sense where it's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely like you feel like 100% about it. So I don't think I make that move. So
what if you do something like
where's Tyreek? What team is he?
What if you do something like Herbert, Ayuk, or Herbert in the 108 for Stafford, Tyreek, and something else, like one of his running backs?
Yeah, I mean, try and pry McCaffrey off of him.
Yeah, you're really going all in though with your.
Yeah, I know, and that's why it's like it's a little scary, But I don't know. I mean,
we can float. We can
fly forever.
Yeah, we can throw around some trades with that kind of like down tiering, which is a big down tier from like Herbert to Stafford. Getting Tyreek, getting maybe the 104 as well. I don't know. I'll look at that one and see if we can kind of cook something up there. But
Yeah, I don't think I'm quite ready to do that though. Like,
No,
I don't
I'm
think,
gonna wait.
especially after the first year, because you could be setting your team back quite a bit
Yeah,
trading for Stafford and Tyreek, like
yeah,
for young assets. So it's it's a little tough for sure.
yeah. It is. It is. Some other guys that I think are undervalued. I mean, any veteran running back is going to fall. Kamara, Connor, um, Aaron Jones, guys like that. They're going to continue to fall. So always be on the lookout for them. I think Pollard is probably undervalued. Jalen Wright from Miami is an interesting guy to kind of get as like a throw in. Oh, you have him. Never mind. So that's good there. Yeah, McCaffrey is probably still even slightly underrated. So those are some players there. I will always say Anthony Richardson. Not always until we see him out of the league. And again, I want to get him cheap, but like he has, if he hits, he's going to be more valuable than almost every single quarterback, at least next year.
Yeah,
One
Mike's
year.
still holding out for Trey Lance too.
Yeah, sure. No, not Trey Lance. Once they went Cooper Rush over him, I think I was out on Trey Lance for the most part. But if Anthony Richardson hits next year, he's a top 5 quarterback. The guy was QB. He was horrendous, and he was QB 15 this year in points per game. Like you see, the guy gives you 7 or 8 points on the ground every single game. You don't. Justin Fields, who threw for like 2,200 yards, was the QB 7, I think, in what was it, 2022, when he rushed for like 1,200 yards or whatever. What was that? Let me see. Was that 2022? 2023. He rushed for 1,224 yards. Justin Fields did. He threw for 2,500 yards. Wait, am I looking at that right? Wait. No, 2022. Sorry. He rushed for 1,143 yards. 2022. He threw for 2,217, and he was the QB 7. So I still think Anthony Richardson, if he hits, he's an incredible buy low opportunity, and you have a hammer there. Like that's a very cheap. There's not many guys who are that cheap that can turn into hammers. I think that's, I guess, my ultimate point here. Like you generally can't do that across any position. So anything else?
I don't know when your waivers open or your free agency pickups, but and obviously this is like a huge just like whatever. But I'm just looking at the guys that are available. It's like maybe pick up Gainwell. Is he still going to be on the Eagles?
I don't know. It feels like he's been there forever.
Yeah, I know, right? And honestly, people are starting to get hyped about Joe Milton getting traded. Like, obviously, like that's like a huge. I mean, you're not dropping anyone of consequence for him, but I don't know. It might be a good stash. Drop Drew Lock for Joe Milton because he could get traded, and then you might be able to get a couple of thirds for him or something. A second if he's going to be starter.
Yeah. I mean, Jermaine Burton, Mechie, Keyshawn Booty, even Dontavian Wicks. Like, I understand holding these guys, but it comes down to the logic in a 10-team start 10. If you're starting these guys, you're probably already screwed, So these are the type of like wide receivers that we call roster cloggers, where why do we have them? Because again, if you're starting him, you're losing versus holding on to these quarterbacks like a Joe Milton, like any running back that's on a starting team on an active roster. Eric All, even unfortunately, you could probably say goodbye to him because he's not even going to play next year. So I always just stack up on quarterbacks and running backs, or I like to try to on these shallower leagues, just because their value can just shoot up pretty easily. So Hendon Hooker, pick him up. Nah, I don't know. Once they brought in Teddy Bridgewater there, that kind of
they're going to Hendon Hooker is going to get traded to Cleveland for Myles Garrett.
Yeah, okay. This is a Lions fan, by the way. Just keep that in
Yeah.
mind. Sean Tucker, I'd probably throw on my roster. Damian Pierce, potentially. Like you said, maybe Gainwell. By the way, Gainwell is a free agent. So
Boo.
Israel Banakanda, stuff like that. But yeah, that was
I always forget where this is at, and I found it again. Like if you scroll down in the power rankings below the available players, like you can see, just go down and go to show more. It shows you how many of every position are actually rostered. You got 41 tight ends rostered, so that's an average of 4 per team, right? So they are obviously, I'd say, maybe overvalued. So kind of consider that. And running backs are only 79, which are kind of like, you'd probably want that a little higher, honestly.
Yeah, I'd say you want most, obviously every running back 2, and then probably most running back 3s on your team. So
yeah, which that's about what it is, I guess. You figure 32 teams, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you could throw Schoonmaker on your team if you want. That's not a terrible one there for sure. But yeah, is there anything else? So I think, again, your team could make the playoffs as it is, assuming, you stick and pick with all your picks. Personally, I think your goal, if you are going to compete, and you can maybe wait the first 5-6 weeks of the season and see how it goes, is to acquire that other hammer to kind of really give you a good chance. Of course, could again, once you make the playoffs, like anyone can go off. So, but it's just giving you obviously a better, more outs and better chance. So, so trying to acquire that other hammer. I don't mind down tiering from Herbert and McConkey. Oh, I also don't mind just getting a 2026 first for your 108 if you could do that. Just straight up, I don't mind doing that. Good chance it's better, and I think there's probably a little bit deeper class in terms of the value positions of quarterback and receiver. I also like the idea of potentially trading back from the 102 to like the 105 or 6 and picking up extra pieces. Again, just giving yourself ammo. So
I was just looking at that too. I was like trying to figure out who had the 105. It's Take Mahomes Country Road.
And you've done rookie mock drafts with me, Rip Lips, and like when it gets to the 102, it could be so many guys, especially in a tight end premium, not because necessarily tight ends matter as much, but the perspective is that they do, perception is that they do. And, there's so many guys that can go from 102 to 108, 109. So like trading back, still getting a really good player and more ammo to potentially go out and get that hammer piece is something I would do as well. And advertise your 201 as a first round pick. If anyone else in your league uses stuff like Keep Trade Cut or trade calculators, they're basing it off of 12-team leagues. So just a little wordage there that you can use and just say, hey, this is a first round pick. This is the 111. Advertise it as that because it sounds sexier.
Yeah. And another thing too, I'm just like looking through like who has what picks and everything. It's like the guy sitting at 109, he probably feels pretty good, but he's only got Stroud and Lawrence as his quarterbacks. So maybe he's a good guy to target for. Obviously it's a huge move back from 102 to 109, but you should be able to get some decent pieces off of him. I kind of like him as a trade partner just because he might feel the desperation of only having 2 quarterback 2s, basically. Obviously Stroud and or Lawrence could finish as a top 12 guy, but we don't think they're going to be difference makers necessarily, but very shallow there. So maybe think about moving back and picking up a lot of extra stuff, you know.
This is very future when the draft comes, but also let's just say everything stays the same. No one trades picks. You're at the 108, and Cam Ward's already taken, and Shador Sanders is there, and you feel like he wants him. Just say, hey, I'm going to pick Sanders. Trade with me, 108 to 109. Give me whatever, like give me something, and then just kind of like blackmail him a little bit and just be like, hey, if you don't trade with me, I'm just going to take the quarterback, and then you're going to have to pay more to get him, type of thing, or trade up one spot. And if your ultimate goal is to not get that quarterback and just kind of like get whatever you can out of them. So, but yeah, I think that is it. And we appreciate you, Rip Lips, and your generosity. And yeah, we got another one coming up for you probably next week. So we'll get all that sorted. If anyone else wants their team reviews, I tried that last year. It didn't work, but it's always something to try. By the way, Rip Lips has been playing fantasy since 2003. So he has, I think we started 2005, Dad. So he has a couple years on us. This is his, I think you said first year in Dynasty though. So yeah, he goes way back to the good old days of the 2000s fantasy football. So
is that like newspaper time and shit like that?
I mean, magazines for sure. I remember getting magazines.
Yeah.
And
Magazine, I think, is where
I drafted Frank Gore his breakout year because of a magazine. Because like Frank Gore, his rookie year, only had 600 yards rushing and stuff, and then it was the 2006 season. Frank Gore had his best year ever, 2,100 total yards and 9 touchdowns and 60 catches. Because it was like, oh, like his yards per attempt were really good or something, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna draft this guy, and I drafted Frank Gore because of a magazine. So
he's eligible for the Hall of Fame next year.
Yeah, put him in.
He's coming out of retirement next year, also, though.
No, his son's playing. Or I don't.
Buffalo.
I didn't hear his name, but he was
on Buffalo's practice squad for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yahoo Fantasy. Yeah, we were more ESPN. We did some Yahoo as well, and NFL, to be honest. But yeah, we were magazines and all that fun stuff. Imagine if we started making a podcast back then, we'd be the biggest one in the world right now. But
no shit, podcast didn't exist.
Like if we would have bought out,
right? You didn't have an iPod to listen to them on. It's all like mini disc players and shit.
Yeah, Deuce McAllister. Yep. I loved I had a team in 2005, I think it was Rudy Johnson from the Bengals and like Warwick Dunn. So I was always like a Rudy Johnson and Warwick Dunn fan from the mid 2000s. But some people in here are probably like, what the hell are you talking about? Mm-hmm. But yeah, we again, simple thing you can do, and I know you guys do all the time. Hit the like and subscribe. Down with Fun always does, always comments. Even just throwing a comment on all those videos we post, whether it's, we hate you, we love you, disagree, agree, whatever, helps the algorithm. Join the Discord, of course. We're going to put together Listener League starting in March. So I think we have enough for sure for one new Dynasty League, maybe 2. We'll see. Yeah.
I've been saying this since I joined, but I really need to get in the Discord. I've had a family full of sick people, and now I'm kind of sick, so
yeah,
I've just been kind of making excuses. But I will get on there and interact with you guys for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're gonna set that up. We'll do at least 12 team. We might even push it to a 14 team league, maybe even a 16 team. Hell, who knows? But yeah, all that stuff's coming up. We're gonna be live throughout the week, all off season, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Maybe a random day here and there. If you want your team reviewed, you know where to go. Lots of rookie content coming out. Rookie mock drafts. So we'll do a mock draft. Yeah, we definitely got to answer this question. We got a Monday, we'll be doing a rookie mock draft. So if you want to hop in, and we should do some startup mock drafts as well. That'll be fun to do on maybe one of these Saturday shows where we don't have a team review.
Yeah,
Super Bowl, what do we got?
Eagles.
Eagles.
I
what's
want-
your score?
Go ahead. I think you got to ask him again.
Are you thinking, Dan, or are you?
No, I said Eagles.
Yeah. What's your score?
Oh, well, they gotta win by. If it's a close game, then of course Kansas City always seems, to be able to win those games, and so it's got to be like 35-28.
Okay. Brian, go ahead.
I really want the Eagles to win for Saquon and for Hurts, AJ Brown. Like, I want all those guys to bask in all their hard work. But I don't know if I'd put money on it, I'm thinking 21-24 Chiefs.
Point spreads are pretty tight. 1 point, 1.5 or something. So.
And John, and by the way, Garlic Bread's name's John. We have to pay Pat Riley now because you said that the last little word you said there, the hyphenated word. He owns the rights to that. So I think the NFL actually paid him to be able to say three-peat because he owned the rights to that phrase. So the Packers were what, a 5P, right?
Yeah, I don't think they won 5 in a row.
Not Super Bowls, but if you go like NFL championships to their 2 Super Bowl 1 and 2, I think they went like 5 in a row. I gotta look at it now.
I know Cleveland won it in 1964.
Nice.
Jim Brown.
Yeah, he does own it. And the funny part is he didn't even get the three-peat. But he owned the rights to it back in, I think it was in the 90s or something.
Yeah, I kind of hate that shit. So
what? Just people having the
you
rights?
say something and then you own the rights to it. That's kind of stupid. So
yeah,
there's got to be some paperwork or some shit.
Well, yeah, a patent
which is still bullshit, but
yeah, it is.
We're not even supposed to be saying like Super Bowl. The NFL. That's why people say the Superb Owl, like in their titles and stuff. Like that's where that whole thing came from. So Packers went 3 in a row. Real quick, Packers went 3 in a row. They won the AFL Championship and then Super Bowl 1 and 2. And then they won. The Bears broke up the 1, 2, 3. The Bears broke up the 5-peat. Oh no, sorry, the Bears and the Browns. Anyways, Packers did it twice. They did it in the 30s as well. So just so
when there was like 5 teams,
1929 to 1931. Yeah, here we go. What were you gonna say, Brian?
I was just gonna say I think it's I don't know. This is to explain it to you, Dad. The name of their dynasty league is Dynasty. And Frank's love child. That's from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah. Shady Nasty.
Shady Nasty. I just watched that episode like 3 or 4 days ago.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. So Brian, you said you want the Eagles, but you think the Chiefs are going to win?
Yeah, it's hard to bet against them. So yeah, I'm saying Chiefs 24, Eagles 21.
Yeah, I think the underrated thing that people don't talk about enough, like in a weird way, Andy Reid is underrated. Like he's just so damn good, and he's the biggest. Probably, I mean, it's like Mahomes and then Andy Reid, and then maybe they're neck and neck. Maybe Reid is the bigger reason why they're winning all these champions. Like he's so good at changing things up. Him and Spagnuolo, giving them 2 weeks. Like we saw. Spagnuolo or Spagnola? I always forget, but Spagnola, no, whatever. But we saw him beat the 2007 undefeated Patriots. And there's a reason for all this. Spagnuolo.
Yeah, he had 4 guys who could rush the passer,
but also because he had 2 weeks to prepare for him. He's just
I
so
think,
damn good at it.
yeah, the coaches are important. You still need players to execute the thing. So, if Mahomes was on another team, he might not be the Mahomes that we know. He'd be throwing up god awful numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
By the way, whatever go ahead. Sorry.
No, if it's close, if the game's close in Kansas City. So just think of this. What was it, 3 years ago? The starting Eagle running back was Miles Sanders. And now we got Saquon Barkley. So to me, that's the difference right there. And Jordan Davis.
I'm going to go on Jalen Carter, too. I'm going to go Eagles.
Jalen Carter's the guy,
Yeah, I'm going to go Eagles 34-31. Chiefs get a late touchdown to get it to 31. And then, you know what I'm going to predict? So I think Mahomes is like undefeated on when the team is losing in the last drive of the game or something, and he comes back and ties it or wins it. He's like 7 or 8-0 or whatever, where all other quarterbacks are like, they lose that game like 60% of the time. I'm going to say Mahomes has a chance to win or tie the game last drive, and he turns the ball over, and the Eagles win. But yeah, it's the coaching makes a huge difference. By the way, Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, is really good. I think Mahomes is 7-0 against them in his career. So he
played Denver those 3 years or something when he was the Denver coach. So
yeah, for sure. But that was Mahomes' only option. Yep, it was. And their run game is insane. Like if you actually like watch it, like they do stuff from the 50s and 40s, like wishbone and triple option stuff, and like they just change it up, and it's insane. But by the way, Samaje Perine go over on his receiving line, and Xavier Worthy rushing line I think is 5. I'd go over because he gets like now he's been getting like 2 attempts per game. So Cheesehead's here, and we'll wrap it up. He says, if you had Genty, the 105 and 111, only have Brian Robinson, Vidal Warren, what would you do? I always still go best player available, Cheesehead, because you can trade. So if you have a surplus of a position, you can trade those for positions in need. So I always like to just take the talent. That could be running backs on both picks, by the way. But if Ted McMillan's there, Luther Burden's there, and like 4 running backs have already gone, I'm not taking RB5 over those guys, So if a quarterback's sitting there at the 111 in a super flex league, I'm not taking RB7 over them. So yeah, best player available for sure. Reed and Mahomes, and they just don't make mistakes. They just never beat themselves. And they have the refs. No, I'm just kidding. I don't believe that.
Taylor.
Yeah, I don't believe it. But anyways, we're gonna wrap it up. Appreciate everyone. If you're watching on replay, hit the like button, join our Discord, all that good stuff, and enjoy the game tomorrow, the festivities, and then it's full on Dynasty off season after that. So it's exciting.
Startup mocks.
We'll probably do that next Saturday, assuming we don't have a team to review. So appreciate everyone. Appreciate you, Rip Lips, and everyone else stopping in. And we will see you all on Monday doing a rookie mock draft.